Welcome to The Explainer. What if you could really see how a company treats its people? I'm not talking about those glossy corporate reports. I mean the actual hard numbers.
Well, it turns out a paycheck can tell you a ton. So today, we're going to peel back the curtain, look past all the marketing fluff, and see what the cold, hard data says about how companies treat their most valuable asset, their people.
You see this a lot, especially in retail, right? There's this constant tug-of-war. We all want low prices, but that often means low wages for employees. And that tension, it creates some serious risks for these companies. We're talking about everything from their reputation taking a nosedive to some pretty big financial hits.
So how do we get a clearer picture of what's actually going on? Well, that's where groups like the Sustainability Accounting Standards Board, you'll hear them called SASB, come into play. They've put together a new framework, basically a common language, so that when companies report on these really important labor issues, we're all comparing apples to apples.
All right, so here's how we're going to break it all down. We'll look at the reality for workers on the ground, dig into these new standards, and then unpack 3 key metrics. We're going to follow the money, look at the employee revolving door, and check out the legal price tag. And then we'll talk about why all this data is such a huge deal.
Okay, first up, let's follow the money. It's the most basic part of any job, right? The paycheck. But what do these new standards actually make companies tell us?
And get this, the standard is super specific. It's not just some vague number. Companies have to calculate the average hourly wage by taking all the wages they paid out. That includes commissions, but not overtime. And then divide that by all the regular hours people worked. This way you get a much clearer picture of what the base pay really looks like.
But here's where it gets really interesting. The breakdown is what's key. The standard says, hey, you can't just lump everyone together. You have to show the average wage for your in-store staff separately from your distribution center workers. And the best part? We get to see how both of those wages stack up against the local minimum wage.
And that brings us to the next piece of the puzzle. This chart shows us exactly what percentage of the workforce is making just the bare minimum. It's a stark number, It really reveals how much a company's entire business model might be propped up by minimum wage jobs.
Okay, so pay is a huge piece of the story, but it's not the whole story. Next step, we're looking at what I call the revolving door, employee turnover. This number can tell you so much about whether a workplace is stable or, not so much.
And just like with wages, the standard demands real precision here. It's not good enough to just give one big turnover number. Companies have to split it up. Voluntary turnover, that's when people choose to leave, versus involuntary turnover, which is when the company lets them go. And believe me, those two numbers tell completely different stories. Think about it. A high involuntary rate might just mean the company is restructuring, but a high voluntary rate? Oof, that can be a massive red flag. It means people are actively voting with their feet and walking out the door, which almost always points to deeper problems with the culture, the management, or just the day-to-day working conditions.
All right, so what happens when things really go south? Let's talk about the consequences. Our third metric gets right to the point. What's the actual quantifiable price tag when it comes to bad labor practices?
So, what are we talking about here? Well, these disclosures cover a whole laundry list of potential violations. Things like unpaid overtime, arguments over wages and hours, even just missed meal breaks. All of this stuff can land a company in some serious legal and financial hot water.
And we're not just talking about abstract risks. No, the standard makes companies report the total, cold, hard cash they've lost from all the settlements, fines, and legal judgments from these violations in a single year. When you see a number that big, it makes the financial fallout from treating workers poorly pretty much impossible to ignore.
Okay, so let's recap. We've got wages, we've got turnover, and we've got the legal costs. Now for the million-dollar question. So what? Why does any of this data actually matter? What can we do with it?
Well, for investors, this is a huge deal. These metrics are like a powerful new X-ray machine. They give them a data-driven way to look right past the official balance sheet and see the hidden risks, both operational and reputational, that could seriously tank a company's value down the road.
And what about for the companies themselves? This kind of transparency creates a really clear benchmark. They can see exactly how they stack up against their competitors. And honestly, it gives them a pretty big incentive to get better at things like employee engagement and productivity, which, at the end of the day, just makes their brand stronger.
And for you, for me, for all of us, it gives us a brand new lens. It's a way to see how the businesses we shop at, the companies we follow, how they truly value their people. It cuts right through all that corporate PR nonsense.
At the end of the day, it comes down to what the SASB standard itself says. Investing in your workers isn't just about feeling good or being ethical. It's about boosting productivity and engagement. Or to put it another way, it's just plain good business.
So I'll leave you with this question to think about. If every single company showed you these numbers, would it change where you choose to work or shop or even invest your money? It's a really powerful thought, isn't it? Because as this kind of radical transparency becomes the norm, the answers we all give could literally reshape our entire economy.